What's going on, YouTube? How is everybody doing this morning? We're having a pretty good week here. Old Northeast Ohio compound. Um, for those watching this later, essentially the first half of this is going to be me going over some stuff, and the second half, depending on what chat's going on about, will be just kind of going back and forth with chat, answering some questions, seeing what's going on. So, good morning, chat. So first thing I wanted to say is just thanks to everybody. We went over 1,000 subs on Friday. That's a pretty big deal. I did not know if I would ever even get to 1,000, let alone get to it that quickly. I made the channel back in May, kind of as a, lockdown / quarantine, something to do. Let's see what this YouTube nonsense is all about. And it started a little slow, which is to be expected. I was just opening up some packs or whatever. And then, it just slowly took off. I found my niche a little bit, got some better equipment. And the growth the last month or so has been crazy. The growth last week has been insane. The channel has had more traffic and more subs the last 5 to 6 days than it's maybe ever had. So I just want to say thanks to everyone getting over 1,000, especially as quickly as I did. It feels like it went fast. I don't know if this is normal. I don't pay attention to a lot of other YouTube stuff. I mean, I watch a lot of other channels, but I don't pay attention to how quickly a channel grows and all that stuff. So I am excited about that. The Browns won this week. That is a rare thing. I'm excited about that. Baker looked competent. Beckham caught passes, didn't drop things, wasn't having an attitude problem. So that was nice. Chubb and Hunt both played really well. So it's a good week around here. We hit the 1,000. Browns win. Browns don't win very often. We take them when we can get them. So, got a couple other little things I want to hit on, but I'm going to save those for in between. So let's go ahead and get into the meat and bones of stuff this week. So what's been going on the last week or so? Basketball market, for the most part, continues to pull back, other than a few exceptions. Most notably, and we'll just talk about them first. Lakers stuff is slowly starting to tick back up again. Specifically, LeBron and AD are the two main ones that I'm focused on. And it looks like, with them getting the Nuggets instead of the Clippers, the market's confidence in them definitely making the finals and competing, having a really good shot at an NBA title, the market's opinion of that has seemed to have swung. So LeBron's base prism, for the first time in a while, is now going back up again. We've talked about this card a lot on the channel as kind of a barometer. It was all the way up to $75 or $80 at one point in time in early August. It has crashed all the way down to high 30s, low 40s. But this past week, it has crept back up to 50. And I can see this trend continuing. I don't think it's going to get back to the crazy levels that it was before. But if you've been holding LeBron, your window to sell before the off season hits is approaching. I could tell you interest in LeBron stuff has picked up as well, just from what I'm seeing on my end. Outside of the Prism base, I had that recent SGC order, and I had these mosaics that I got back. They've been on eBay. I've been posting them around Facebook and stuff. And the last 3 or 4 days, the amount of offers that I've gotten has picked up a little bit. And I sold one. I sold a base SGC 10 just yesterday. And I'm not afraid to sell now. I understand that there's a good chance it could go up if they would win a title. And maybe I'm leaving a little bit of money on the table. But I would rather sell early than late. I would rather sell on the way up than on the way down. Because when you try to sell on the way down, it's really tough. You're chasing then, and you're trying to just basically undercut the market to get it out of your inventory as quickly as possible. So I would rather sell a little too early and regret it. I sold some Tyler Hero Prism base about a week ago. They jumped up this week pretty good. Um, but I sent my best ones off to grading. I sold some raw. I wanted to lock in the profits, and then I'll get the PSA 10s back or whatever, hopefully 10s, and whatever else I sent of his off. And it's all good. But like, I would rather always sell early. And selling's tricky unless you're willing to drastically undercut the market. You might not necessarily just sell your card the second that you post it. It takes sometimes a couple days to sell this stuff, if not weeks. So if you're trying to move off LeBron stuff and you wait till he gets into the finals, and let me tell you something, the way this market reacts, if they drop a game, his prices are going to go way down again. Maybe not way down, and I'm specifically talking about LeBron Lakers jersey cards. So I would start to get ahead of that now. The hype's going to start building, especially if they win again, and we'll see what happens. So right off that, AD has finally crept back up again. We talked about AD last Sunday. His stuff got super cheap. I was shocked. I didn't realize how low it had gotten. Someone in chat had been like, what's up with AD? So I had pulled his chart last week, and he had basically bottomed out at around 1600. And you can see over the last week, he's finally started to tick back up again. He's another one that, I think his prices are going to continue to rise. He seems like the most undervalued of all the superstars left right now. And I say that knowing that his PSA 10 is almost $2,000 now, but I think his card has the most potential to go way up the next week or two if they win a title. But I worry that the window is so narrow that it's not worth the mess with. If you already have them, this I would probably hold until they actually got to the finals. Like if they clinch the Western Conference, I may look to move it between the Western Conference finals and the finals starting. I think, especially if Miami makes it, I think Miami can really give the Lakers a run for their money. Maybe Miami doesn't get past Boston. Boston looked good last night, but we'll see what happens. I don't know that I would run out and buy AD PSA 10s. I think the window's too narrow, and by the time you factor in the eBay fees and stuff, it's way too much of a risk on a super short-term flip like that. But if you had one laying around, I probably would hold AD for at least for the finals to start, assuming they make it. I'm not going to count Denver out because they've came back 3-1 in 2 straight series, so it's hard to get too crazy on the Nugs and getting bounced. Speaking of guys losing a couple games and their prices tanking, let's look at Jason Tatum. Tatum stuff has just gone to the basement, and it went quick. This was $1,000 card at its peak back in early August. Market pulled back a little bit. It was floating around 800 or 900 forever. They lost 2 games, and this is a 7-day chart, and it is down 22%. It is under $700 now. Now, this chart does not have last night sales data. So you can see it bottomed out here on the 18th at 640, and then it crept back up yesterday to 690. I would not be surprised if this crept back up a little bit more with them winning yesterday, but I don't think it's going to get back to 800 overnight. They would have to make a little bit of a run and, at least even the series back up again. If they go down 3-1, then I think it goes right back down. I will be curious to see where Tatum's bottom is. I'm going to guess around 500-600. I don't think it goes below 5, but who knows? His card's also a lot lower pop count compared to like a Luka or a Zion. He was a 2017 rookie. The market movers pop counts aren't super up to date, but you can see here his pop counts just over 3K. It's probably a little higher than that now. It's probably closer to 4, but I don't remember the last time these were updated. But regardless, I could definitely see him taking a big drop back, just like the other guys have once they get eliminated. Now, maybe they come back and win, But Tatum is a guy I would definitely be looking to pick up when he hits the pricing floor. You know, if they have a bad next couple days and they get eliminated, Tatum's one I'm going to be watching closely to see when it looks like his prices are getting towards the bottom and pounce on some stuff. I still think Tatum's one of the best young players in the league. To me, he is one of the better long-term holds along with Giannis and Luka of the young guys. I really think they're the next generation once LeBron moves out of the way. So, but that's what's going on with Tatum. And this is pretty much across the board. His select stuff's down. His prism stuff's down. It's affecting everything. I didn't check optic, but it's the same way. Our weekly Zion and Ja check-in. I just like looking at these guys every week because I feel like it's kind of like a barometer of how the entire NBA market is going, is how their prices go. So once again, they continue to basically stay flat. Zion over the last 7 days down 0.9. Ja over the last 7 days down 5.8. So hardly anything at all. Once again, Ja seems to be floating right around that $400 number. You could see he dips right down close to it, then sneaks up again, so on and so forth. And Zion is basically the same way. He gets down to 575, 550, and then shoots back up to around 575, 6. So I know we've said it for a few weeks now. It seems like Zion has essentially hit his floor and is basically floating there. So I think if you want Zion, if you want to load up on Zion before next season starts, I really think you could basically buy it anytime. Look for deals. You could be patient. Same with Ja. Ja's base PSA 10 Prism. I don't see it going much below 400. So once again, see if you can find some deals. You could be patient. You have some time to buy their stuff already graded. All right, let's switch over to football and talk about Mosaic. Mosaic Football Hobby came out over a week ago. Retail, I'm about 95% sure you will see retail in mass next week. Maybe not necessarily every single store, but I think retail is going to be readily available and not readily available because we all know what finding retail is like in this 2020 market. But retail, I believe, will hit the shelves next week if it follows the pattern of just about everything else. And this will be your Walmarts, your Targets, your Myers, etc. Blasters hit a couple Facebook groups late this week, specifically from the Illinois area. For whatever reason, Illinois area always gets stuff the week before everybody else does. I don't know why. I don't know if they just got a wacky vendor schedule, what the deal is, but it happened with Chronicles, it happened with Illusions, and it happened with Mosaic Basketball. There's a set of stores in the Illinois area that just seem to get it the Thursday or Friday before, and that's like the tip of the iceberg that the next week start checking your stores. So this coming week, starting tomorrow, depending on when your stores stock, if you know the schedule, Mosaic Football should be out. Blasters, Cellos, I assume Megas as well. I haven't seen Megas yet, but I assume that they exist. And Mosaic Football is going to be hot. The hobby boxes are going for between $750 and $850. They kind of bounce around a little bit. I've seen them for as low as $750 and as high as $850. I've seen them for sale for $8 and everywhere in between. The major differences between the two are the insert sets. The big thing that hobby has, and we talked about this last week, is stained glass. You can only get stained glass out of hobby, and stained glass prices have come down a lot this past week. If we look at stained glasses, you could see right here the Patrick Mahomes is going for about 600. It was 1,000. Now this is normal. Don't be freaked out by, and I know we mentioned this before, by all this red on these Mosaic cards. What I have up right here on Market Movers is the sales volume by card, but I have it filtered by set. So we are just looking at Mosaic 2020 football. And then I have the options here to sort the categories however I want. So right now we have it by current highest price sold or average. And this is not every single card. Usually what the market movers team does is when a new set comes out, they add in the stuff that they know is going to be hot right off the get. So we can get tracking on it right away. And that's what they've done here. So this being a bunch of red is fine. It's because the cards just hit. The prices always start inflated on the singles, and the market kind of figures out where they want this stuff to go, and then it levels out. We are still in the market figuring out where it wants to go section. And it's going to be like that probably till at least next week. I'm going to guess next week I'll look at this chart again, and I assume it's basically going to look about the same. It's going to be a bunch of red still trending down, because what's going to happen next week is when Mosaic hits, retail hits, and everyone starts ripping packs open, the market's going to flood with this stuff even more, and the prices are going to draw back even more. So Minshew has a stained glass. Wow, I did not realize that. Let's see if he's on here. Gardner Minshew stained glass, ending average $90. It started the week out at 150, is down to 90. Chat, for those watching on demand, asked about Minshew stained glass. So I'd say anything under 90, but I would honestly, well, they play today, so this, I could say this now, and if he has another good game, this price could go up a little bit. But I would say anything under 100, and I would maybe even shoot a little bit lower than that, because I think the prices continue to go down a little bit on this stuff. Now, like I said, stained glass is a hobby exclusive. Everything else, there's some other inserts out of hobby that are exclusive, and then retail has exclusive. The big thing that retail has that hobby does not, and this is the sole reason, other than the stained glass, that I like the retail over the hobby, is Genesis cards. The Genesis stuff looks sick. So for those not aware that didn't buy basketball, this is what Genesis looks like. It is a insert parallel set, and they look really good. Really, really good. They're nice looking cards. They are super short print. They are not numbered. So it's everyone's best guess on what exactly they print run is on them. Sorry, I'm looking something up on the other screen here. And they sell for a lot. So if you pull one and you did not follow this stuff in basketball, do not undersell what they go for. They are extremely nice cards, and they go for a decent chunk of change. I saw people when Mosaic Basketball first came out were pulling them and not realizing what they were and putting them up way too cheap. Even Vet Stars sell for a real pretty penny. And I know the basketball and football market aren't exactly equivalent, but for example, I pulled a Steph Curry base, Genesis, out of retail, and I sent it in the BGS and got a BGS 9.5 on it, and I sold it for $1,000. And that's just a random Steph Curry, whatever year he's in, short print card. I got $1,000 for it. So do not undersell the Genesises if you pull them. But you can see, in general, the most valuable card out of the set currently seems to be the Burrow Silver Raw. The interesting thing here is you could see that most of the stuff's trending down. His is not trending down that much at all, because even though they're 0-2, he has looked really good in his last 2 games. So let's sort this chart really quickly by number of sales. And to no surprise, Burrow's at the top. This is Burrow's first real, what I'm going to call a real rookie card. I know he's been in Don Russ, and he's been in Score and some of the other stuff that's come out. But to be frank with you, those products just are not taken that seriously. Mosaic is the first quote-unquote shiny card that has released. So this is the first desirable base rookie card of his, and anyone else for that matter. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Tua, all those guys for this rookie class. Prism will be the main event. Mosaic and Optic seem to be in a battle for second place. Personally, I prefer Optic to Mosaic, but I am a sucker for the rated rookie logo. I absolutely love the rated rookie logos on the Optic cards. Call it the old school me, but I just love the rated rookie logo on the Optic stuff. I just think it looks great. Mosaic doesn't have that. Another thing about Mosaic, if you guys are ripping Mosaic this week, or if you're buying singles on the secondary markets, specifically to grade, be careful. Mosaic have a ton of surface issues. Just be aware of that. Buying Genesis raw off or not Genesis, buying Mosaic raw off of eBay is a crapshoot. They have tons of little nicks, scratches, imperfections, dots. I assume football is going to be the same as what basketball was. Basketball was a nightmare, and I opened a ton of NBA Mosaic. I have a video. If you look, it's one of the first ones I ever posted. So I can't comment on the current quality of it, that it stands up to the current standards that I have. But if you go look back on my channel at my earlier videos, I did videos specifically on Mosaic surface issues in basketball. So you can go back and kind of look at what I was seeing on that stuff. And I opened about 400 blasters worth plus cellos of Mosaic basketball. So I feel like I have a good idea for what their surface stuff looked like. But but the big thing I wanted to get out there is Mosaic football is coming out retail. And I believe that it will hit this week and let the retail madness ensue. As we've mentioned before, the retail market chase is insane right now. We're seeing more and more stores pull card sections out. I will be curious to see if by the end of the year that cards are even readily available at Targets and Walmarts and Myers. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in time Panini shifts the model to just selling blasters direct off their website for a slightly inflated price over retail. I don't know that there's, MSRP doesn't really mean anything anymore. I think the next big shift that this hobby is going to see is the way retail works, because the retailers are just sick of dealing with it. I think that's going to be the next big shift, is what happens if the retail market goes away and it's only Panini Direct and LCSs, which, depending on where you live, LCSs could be in short supply. So we'll see what happens over the next few months with that. But I am fearful of what the hobby retail landscape turns into. And one thing that has been going around this week that I haven't seen yet is a lot of Walmarts moving retail product to behind the customer service counter. Targets have been doing that for a while, but I saw a lot of posts this week on Facebook of Walmart's now starting to do that as well, with signs being posted saying, if you're looking for sports cards, you need to go look behind the customer service counter. So we will see what happens there. So let's get into some football. A couple cards that swung way up of current players. Lamar, base Prism. He obviously had a really nice week last week, shredded my Browns. His base raw went up 60% in a week to go back up to 365. Now, this card was pretty high up there. It dipped down right before the season started. His stuff really spiked up at the end of July, early August, with the rest of the market. Had a pretty good pullback the 3 weeks leading up to the season starting. And then just this week, with him having a really good week, things kind of popped off a little bit. And his prices shot back up. And we are definitely in the, if guys play well, their prices go way up market again, just like we saw in the NBA. That is for sure. Speaking of which, Kyler Murray had a great week last week. I have him on a couple fantasy football teams, so I was excited to root him on. His stuff went up almost 30%. This is his base PSA 10 Prism. It started the week off last Saturday at 7:50 and has ended the week at almost 9:50. And if you're in any groups at all, any buy sell trade groups at all the posts all week were looking for Kyler Murray, want to buy Kyler Murray, autos, graded, rookies, chrome, silvers, whatever, all the different variations and shenanigans. Kyler Murray is one of the hottest names in the football hobby. I hope he does not get hurt running around like a crazy man, but we will see what happens with his prices. I hope he keeps playing well. A lot of my fantasy seasons are riding on his legs. Up next, we mentioned him earlier. Gardner Minshew left for dead in the offseason. And then, they bring in Nick Foles to compete with him. Or not Nick Foles. They got rid of Nick Foles. But he was just kind of like whatever out there. Everyone kind of forgot about him. And then Minshew Mania kicks in on week 1. And this is his base Prism Raw. At the beginning of the week, this was going for under $20 a piece, and it has gone up 105% over the last week. It is all the way up to almost $40 now. So you can see the NBA market overreaction has completely carried over to the NFL. I assumed that it would, but I was curious to see, now that we have a week's worth of data, how much this knee-jerk reaction market has carried over. So, and once again, I expect this to continue. Now, the flip side of this is, so guys play well, they go up. Guys get hurt, guys play poorly, and they go down. And I have a prime example of that, and this one hurts my soul because, once again, I have him on a couple fantasy teams, and his stuff, and I talked him up, and I really like him. I still do. AJ Brown. AJ Brown prices tanked. His base raw prism was about $30 a pop. He did not play extremely well on Monday Night Football, and then it came out that he has a knee bruise and is going to miss probably a couple weeks. And his prices went to the floor. On this chart, it shows that they're down to about $10 a piece. I could tell you right now, I watched some auctions last night and at $7 a piece for his base prisms. I am still a big AJ Brown believer, and I will be buying the dip. He has he has a bone bruise. He does not have knee damage. He's not out for the season. A knee bruise is something that, if it gets the proper rest, does heal fine. Or a bone bruise. Sorry, I keep saying knee bruise. And I fully expect him to be back and fully up and running within a week or two, maybe 3 weeks at most. And I still think he's extremely talented and a physical freak. So I will be looking to buy this AJ Brown dip. Luckily, most of my stuff of him that I bought well into the early off season, and I got it pretty cheap. So it would have to fall pretty far for me to actually lose money on it. But I will definitely be buying the dip, as I think he is one of the best young wide receivers in the league. But who knows? I could just be an idiot. That's the last big thing I had on the docket to talk about this morning. I have one other quick thing I want to cover, and then chat if you guys have any questions on anything. I see we got a Ben Simmons question. I will look that up in a minute. We will pop over and see what chat wants to talk about this morning. The thing I wanted to talk about, and I mentioned this at the beginning, for those that weren't here at the beginning of the stream, we hit 1,000 subs this week. And that's a huge YouTube milestone, getting to your first 1,000. So as part of that, I wanted to just kind of give a couple shout outs to a few different people. The first is ZiggyNo, and the links to these three guys' stuff is in the description of this video. ZiggyNo is another YouTuber. He has a really great YouTube channel that essentially recaps the day in the sports card YouTube universe. He does like a quick 5-minute rundown each day of like all the prominent YouTubers, what they talked about and what you missed. And it's really nice if you don't have time to, sit and watch hours of YouTube content, because there's hundreds of hours of YouTube content every single day made for sports card stuff. And he kind of breaks it all down and kind of picks out the highlights. And, if someone talks about something that you're interested in, then you could go check out the full video. But check out ZiggyNo's YouTube channel. He's specifically called out some of my videos before, so I wanted to kind of give him a shout out back, as one of the people that has kind of helped get me to 1,000. Another one is Step Back Sports. He has a podcast. Once again, link in the description below. His podcast is really good. Takes a little bit different approach than I do, a little bit more vintage, big SGC guy. We talk quite a lot through Facebook Messenger and stuff. We don't necessarily always agree on a lot of stuff. We have very different approaches, but that's fine. You should have people that you can bounce stuff off with that don't necessarily always agree with the way that you do things. That's healthy, and it makes you smarter. And then the third one, so check out his podcast. It's really good. He does little 10, 15, 20-minute episodes about 2 or 3 times a week. And then the last one is Natsman72. He has a really fun YouTube channel. He does a lot of PSA, SGC, submission previews, reveals, bigger baseball guy. So I kind of bounce baseball stuff off him because I'm not as ingrained in the baseball markets as those dudes are. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to those couple guys that kind of helped, I believe, the channel grow, along with all of you guys for, clicking the buttons and all that crap down below. So let's pop over and see what chat is up to really quick. Is there a Discord that I am in? Yes. I am in the Sports Card Investors Discord, SCI, the SCI Discord. It's probably, I would say, the largest sports card Discord that there is. At least that I'm aware of anyway. It's the only one. I'm in 2. There's another one for Sell the Peak has one as well. I am in that Discord as well. And Sell the Peak is kind of like a 130 point. It's a different version. I don't want to say it's better because they kind of do the same thing. It's a different version of 130 point where you can go to look up sold eBay listings, and they're trying to do some stuff. I haven't checked out their tool set yet, but they're kind of working up like a market mover style tool system. So I don't want to say compete with market movers, but kind of do similar things to market movers and Card Ladder and whatever the slab stocks platform is going to be. So I am in those 2 Discords most prominently. All right, let's circle in the chat and see. Ben Simmons has basically remained flat. To circle back to that question from a few minutes ago. Let me pull up his stuff real quick. The only reason why I know that right off the top of my head is because I have an Optic PSA 10 Prism, and it has basically done nothing the last few weeks. So let's look at the last 30 days with him. So this is his last 30. He's basically flat. He's creeped up, he's creeped down, little spikes here and there. But he started off, let's see, this dates back to August 21st. The start average was 126 on his Optic. The end average was 135. His PSA 10 Prism was 285 and ended at 310. This, to me, is a perfectly normal off-season chart where nothing is happening. This is what you kind of want to see to predict that you have reached the bottom. Because what you see are these little dips where they get below a certain price, and then the market's like, he shouldn't be that cheap, and they raise back up. So to me, on Simmons, on his Prism, it looks like his floor is about 325. You could see here, it got below 325. We have a 285, a 300, and then it popped back up to 350, sat there for a few days. Then it went back down again to 335, sat there for a few days, dipped back down to closer to 330, so on and so forth. So 300, actually about 300, seems to be his current floor. And then His optic looks like it's the same way. It's basically sat at 125 this entire time, and it doesn't seem to be going any lower than that. Simmons is one that I will be talking about in an upcoming. I've been doing the off-season targets videos over the last week or so. We're through 3 parts of those. I've been covering the non-playoff teams first. I'm getting ready to get into the playoff teams. And Simmons is definitely going to be the leading candidate on that list. I think, especially his optic PSA 10. I love that card when it was at 250, and I love it even more now that it's at 125. That card got almost all the way up to 275 at one point before he hurt his knee. And I do really think he's still one of the better young players in the league. They got a new coach coming in, a little shake up there. Could do wonders from him. Maybe he gets traded. Who knows? But I love Ben Simmons as a buy low. And I think you could pretty much buy him anytime right now. I believe his prices have completely hit the floor. They might creep up, they might creep down like you see on these graphs here, but he's basically done moving around a little bit. We had a question from Adam about if you hit a Genesis, do you think it's worth grading and selling raw while the market is new and hot? That's a tough one. I will tell you from my NBA Mosaic experience. So I pulled 2 Genesis, 2 big. I pulled a lot of Genesis, but I pulled actually 3. 3 big Genesis cards. I pulled a Curry base, a James Harden MVP, and this Jason Tatum. The Harden and the Curry I sent to BGS, and this was back when BGS was still competent and could actually were reasonably priced for a quick turnaround sub. I think it was about $60 a card, and the reason why I went with them is because they were the fastest and the cheapest at the fastest. That is no longer the case. The Harden was selling for about $400 or $500 raw. The Curry was selling for about $500 or $600 raw. I sent them both in on Express. I got them back within a week, and they both true gemmed, both quad 9.5s. The Curry took me about a week to sell, and I had a lot of problems pricing it because there was no comps. I was one of the first graded back, and that's always tricky. And I got a lot of offers that were like barely above raw, and I'm like, this doesn't even cover my grading fees. This is a BGS True Gem 9.5 in Mosaic that has terrible surfaces. I ended up getting 1,000 straight cash for that card through Facebook. The Harden, so I worked that played out in my favor. The card was worth $500 to $600 raw. I spent about $75 to grade it, maybe 70 if you include shipping and everything. And I sold it for 1,000. So I added about $325 in value to the card after the grading fees, give or take. The Harden, I basically washed out on. The Harden MVP Genesis were selling for around 400. Even in the few days it took to get it back, it took about a week to get back. The market had already downshifted on that card quite a bit, and raw had dropped down to under $300. So when I got it back, I probably made, I made all profit on it because I didn't have any cost into the Mosaic to begin with, but I probably only made an extra $25 or $30 on top of the grading fees on that card. I would have 100% been better off to sell that raw, 100%, than take the risk of grading it. The Tatum I pulled later, and at the time was not that big of a card. The Tatum Genesis was only selling for like $100 or $125 raw. So I had an SGC order going out with a bunch of other Mosaic stuff, so I just included it. So this now, caveat with this is the theory is that I would get it back and sell it right away because I thought SGC was hitting turnaround times. Obviously they weren't. We all know that story. But what happened with Tatum is Tatum's prices exploded while it was sitting at SGC. So this raw right now, I haven't checked the last couple of days, but as of a week ago or so, this raw was a $300 to $350 card. But most of that happened just because Tatum's prices went crazy. It had nothing to do with it being, whatever. Just Tatum's stuff went crazy. This right now, I have priced at 500. Uh, and I haven't got. I had one serious offer on eBay for it at around 425, and I just didn't want to take that. Um, I thought it was worth more. I have it on eBay for like 600 with best offer. Um, but I've been posting it around Facebook for around 500 to 550. I would definitely take 500 for this. So I'll be curious to see what I get for that. I'm worried that with him with the team not playing well, that it's going to affect that market. So it was a very long story to answer your question, but I think I kind of laid out the three different paths that can happen. It's tough. Whatever you do, if you pull a high end Genesis like a Tua, a Burrow, maybe even a Brady, any of the big rookies, Clyde, um, any of the big main stars like a Patrick Mahomes, a Lamar Jackson. If I pulled a Lamar or a Patrick Mahomes Genesis, I would grade it and I would probably pay for Express through PSA. I would run you about 75 or 80 bucks a card. You'd probably have it back in about a week to 10 days, maybe 2 weeks tops. I believe Express through PSA is hitting pretty good. But if I pulled a monster vet like that, I would 100% grade it. Um, Other than that, it's really going to depend on what the market's doing at any given day, because the prices are going to fluctuate so much week to week depending on what the guy does in a game. So it's a tricky question to answer. But if it was an established vet like a Mahomes, a Lamar, a Brady, I would probably grade that for sure. Um, bu- 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 Sorry, just looking through chat. How long would I hold Beckham for? Sorry, this question was from a little bit ago. Until you felt like you made a decent enough profit on it. I'm still extremely worried about the Browns' offense as a whole. I think they got lucky because the Bengals suck, specifically on defense. Their offense is good, and that game basically turned into a shootout. I thought Baker looked a lot better and Beckham looked a lot better, but I don't know how much of that was those two and how much of that was the Bengals defense. The way I am treating football, if I can lock in a good profit on something, I'm going to take the profit and run. Um, these guys get hurt way too easily. And as we just saw, I pulled down the chart for him. AJ Brown has what is considered, I don't want to say it's a minor injury. He's week to week, but he is not expected to miss the season or anything. And his prices nosedived immediately. Um, and I can easily see that happening with any of these other guys. I looked at Michael Thomas's stuff. He doesn't have a lot of traffic because there's not a lot of high pop counts on his cards, but his stuff backslid a pretty decent amount this week. And he just had an ankle sprain, a high ankle sprain. He's going to miss a week or two. I'll be curious to see what his stuff looks like next week. So, if I bought in the Beckham for, I don't know, 80 bucks for a PSA 10 or something, and it gets up to 150, 160, I may look to sell that. I'm not going to be afraid to take profit when it comes to football cards. If I get a decent return back for what I put into it, I'm not going to hesitate to sell. Football is way too much stuff can happen on any given Sunday. I like Jaylen Brown quite a lot. Corbin, someone asked thoughts on Jaylen Brown. I don't have a lot of Jaylen Brown. I have a couple Ross Select rookies. That being said, it's really hard for me to buy into any guys still currently playing. The risk reward I don't think is there to be buying into a Tatum, a Brown, a Jimmy Butler, an AD, LeBron Prisms or whatever. Because by the time you get the card, the market swings so fast right now. And I have a feeling even after, like, say the Lakers win the NBA title, I think within a week you're gonna see AD's prices and LeBron's Lakers stuff fall. And my point of reference for that is Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl and his prices went down shortly after winning it. They actually peaked, I believe, the week right after they won the AFC Championship game. I believe is when Mahomes' prices peaked. And then he won the Super Bowl and his prices actually went down because he wasn't playing anymore. Now, that was a slightly different market back then than what we're in now, but I don't see why that wouldn't hold. Just maybe their drop is not as far as some of these other guys is. So to be buying Jaylen Brown now, I think I would just wait. They could still come back and win the series if that happens. Is this stuff going to go up? Probably. But remember, whatever you buy, especially if you're looking to short term flip it, you need at least a greater than 10% profit or you're losing money. And really, you need 13%, at least if you're selling on eBay. And it's all great to say you're going to sell on all these Facebook groups and Discords and stuff. But to be honest, it's really hard to sell on those groups unless you are super cheap and way below comps. Most people do not want to pay current comps on there. They want to pay below eBay comps. Trust me, as someone that's tried to sell a lot on there and has sold a lot on there, I've had success selling on there. But people buying on there want deals, and it's hard to get your stuff seen. And people that do want to buy posts are looking to buy the hot players. And if Jaylen Brown's not a hot name at the time, it just makes it tricky. So 9 times out of 10, you're probably just going to end up selling on eBay and eating the 10% fees. So remember, if you're looking at short-term flips, you need enough to at least cover the fees plus shipping, unless you're charging shipping. Getting over 10%, that means the card needs to go up at least that much before you're even turning a profit. And then, is it worth tying the money up and the risk for Jaylen Brown to go up 20% and you got a 7% return on your money on a short-term flip? Now, if you want to buy Jaylen Brown long-term and hold, that's a different story. But this is also a terrible time to do that as well. If you buy Jaylen Brown now and they lose, his stuff's going to crash and you could just wait 2 weeks and get it a lot cheaper. So if you're looking to buy into any of you could spin this out to any of the current players like Tatum, Bam Adebayo, all those guys. If you're looking to buy into them and hold long term, don't buy now. Wait a week for one of them to get knocked out. Now, like I said, prices could go up if they win, but odds are, especially the Celtic guys or the Nuggets guys, if you want to buy in the Jokic, wait a couple weeks. They're probably not going to beat the Lakers. His prices are going to tank as soon as they drop from the playoffs, just like every other star has by then. So that would be my advice for Brown. I do like Brown as a player, though, and I like him as a long-term hold. When looking to buy raw to grade and you have limited funds, do you think it's better to get 1 or 2 big rookies like Trey or more lower end rookies like Cam Kobe? I would say if you don't have a big bankroll, Adam, go with more lower end guys. The reason why grading is no sure thing. So, and I'm guilty of this too. We make these videos and we talk about this. Go buy raw cards, turn them into PSA 10s. It's like the goose that lays golden eggs from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. That's all well and good. It sounds good, but guess what? Odds are, you're not going to hit 10s on every single card. In fact, you're absolutely not going to hit 10s on every single card. And there's going to be some 9s in there that you're going to have to eat that chew into your profit margin. So I would rather go with the spread the risk approach if you were just starting out and going with lower end guys than putting all your eggs into hopefully hitting a PSA 10 off a single Trey or Luka. Because if it comes back a 9, depending on the card, you may break even. Some 9s don't sell for much more than raw. You'll get whatever raw is plus the grading fee, plus maybe a little bit. Like Luka and Trey PSA 9s carry a decent amount of value, but not enough to, wrap up the time and effort that you put into getting the card graded. So I would definitely go for lower end guys. Like, essentially, look at the last 3 videos that I posted with NBA offseason targets. I've been trying to skew those towards lower end guys like the Cam Reddishes, the KPJs, stuff like that. I would rather have, if you're just starting out, like 10 KPJs at $5 to $10 a piece, send in the PSA or mix and match. I wouldn't do all one player. I'd spread the risk around to a handful of different guys, but you get the point. Dwayne Wade 03 Topps Chrome PSA 400. I Player Hawk talking about Wade. I don't follow the non-current players market super close. Um, Weird things tend to drive those guys' prices, the guys that are not currently playing. What I mean by not currently playing, he's talking about Wade, guys from like the last 10 or 15 years that are now retired and out of the league. I mean, I think Wade is a perfectly fine long term buy and hold. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame, et cetera. He's one of the best players the league has ever seen, especially as a shooting guard. But I don't want to sit here and predict where his prices go because I just don't follow that market as closely. Daniel Jones out of 10. I mean, if it looks good, sure. Um, that's a tricky one because it's not his rookie card. So it's not like numbered cards are also tricky to grade. Um, I don't know that it's worth tying it up at grading for 3 months. I would probably just wait for him to have a pretty good week and then just sell it. Because if you send it off to grade now, it's going to sit there for, unless you're doing an express order. And I don't know that a card like that's worth an express order. So I would probably just look to sell that raw. But you could hold it till, maybe sit on it for a week or two and see if he has a big game. If it was a rookie, I would be more willing to grade it. Um, Player Hawk regarding Mosaic football. Will I be retail hunting for it? Yes and no. I am. I don't want to say I'm retired from the retail game, but I think I'm retired from the retail game. It has turned into an absolute mess around me. Um, the targets all have limits in place of anywhere from 2 to 4 per person. And I know the vendor's schedule for about a dozen targets in my area, so I pretty much know exactly when to show up. The problem is, at one point in time, I was one of the few people that knew it. Now everyone has figured it out. And like the local store to me that I would go to when I go on the stocking day, when I went when Chronicles released, there was 15 to 20 people lined up at the customer service desk waiting to get the box of cards, and they had been waiting for an hour or two. And I'm not about that, especially for some Chronicles basketball. And I do like Mosaic. I would absolutely love to rip some Mosaic, but I'm not going to go stand in line for 2 hours for cards. I'm not going to go stand in line for 15 minutes for cards. If I walk in and they're on their shelf, I'll get them. So I will check a few of the stores that I know when they stock just to see if I get a little lucky. I will tell you with Chronicles basketball, I got very unlucky. I ripped some Chronicles basketball on the channel. I got a blaster and a hanger, and that's the only Chronicles I've seen the entire time. Now, after the first week or two, I basically stopped trying. I checked a couple Walmarts, but the Walmarts around me do not stock consistently. So I honestly think I'm retired from retail hunting, and I don't know that I'll be willing to pay the secondary prices. I would rather buy singles. Ripping wax is never a good idea in general, unless you get it at true retail. If you could get a blaster box for $20 off the shelf at Target or Walmart, rip it to your heart's content. But paying 3x on the secondary market to rip, unless you're running breaks or something, to me makes no sense. I would much rather just buy the singles. Um, Ripping wax is almost always a loser. I'm gonna do a video. I'm waiting till I get some more stuff back from grading to kind of see where it all shakes out. I tracked exactly what I spent on Mosaic basketball, so I'm gonna do. It's probably still gonna be at least another month or two before I do this. But I'm gonna kind of do a video running down like would I have been better off just selling it all sealed, and kind of where I ended up profit or loss wise with the whole buying a bunch of retail and ripping it, et cetera, with grading fees built in and everything. That's the reason why I didn't do the video right away. Because I wanted to see, like, I want to factor in how much did I spend on grading fees and how much did I sell it for once it got graded, et cetera. I got a pile of stuff and I'm waiting for, I'll probably do it after I get my next PSA order back. I have an order at PSA now that has a lot of Mosaic stuff in it. When I get that back and sell it, so it'll probably be like towards the end of the year that I do a big, massive recap on would I have been better off selling this stuff raw. So I love all the young Hawks yen money. Um, like I said, go check out. I did 3 videos within the last week or so on NBA offseason targets. One of them I talk about Hawks guys. I absolutely, I don't like adore Reddish, but I think he is a very good offseason target. I think the entire Hawks roster is a good offseason target to buy. Hunter, Reddish, Trae Young, and John Collins are all guys I wouldn't mind buying cheap raw and getting them graded. So that's pretty much all I have. Unless chat has any last minute questions on anything, we'll go ahead and get out of here. Smash the like button, click some sub buttons, all that stuff. I think, how much more do I think cards will correct? Mitchell has fallen off the cliff. Mitchell's followed this same trend line that all the other guys have that got eliminated. Um, it takes a good almost month for them to basically level out. I use Lillard and Booker as tracking mechanisms for this. I did not look at them this week. We'll look at that next week. I'll put that on the list of things to pull up next week. Is check in on the guys that have been eliminated from early on, but he should start leveling out soon. Um, Essentially, they're resetting to early July prices, is what most of the guys end up doing. I haven't looked at Mitchell's chart for a while, so but we'll look next week's show. I will look at um, we'll dip back into guys that got eliminated early in the playoffs, like Booker, like Lillard, and some of the other guys, and I'll put Mitchell on that list for sure. So he should be leveling off soon. Zion and Ja have leveled off basically completely now, and they basically got eliminated about a week before Mitchell. So Mitchell's probably got about another week or so left. So you are absolutely correct. Now is the time to grade basketball. That is the biggest thing. You should be buying raw or going through your boxes. That's what I'm doing. That's the reason my desk looks like it does. I have piles of stuff. This pile here is my next PSA submission. And then I have another pile over here that's off camera and boxes of stuff I am sorting through, checking to see what could go to PSA. Here's a good visual representation. So this stuff here, this stack, is all stuff I pulled out. These are top loaders. So you can see there's quite a few cards in there. I don't know how many exactly. This is all stuff I pulled out that at quick glance in a top loader, I considered sending in for grading. Most of this is NBA Optic and Mosaic with a little bit of Prism mixed in. Out of this, this is what I pulled out. So you can see the stack difference there because one's in card savers and one's in top loaders. So this entire stack I went through, and at first glance, I thought these were all good for PSA. After I took them out of the top loader, took them out of the penny sleeve, and wiped them down, I eliminated this entire stack from consideration, mostly based off surface issues. You know, corners for the most part are going to be pretty good on modern cards, and edges too, typically. But unless you physically damage the cards, every one of those cards had some sort of minor surface issue that I thought that would cause it not to get a PSA 10. And it is all stuff, I will say, that you would not see. So like if just if you saw that on an eBay listing, Kobe White purple optic, nice high color photo or whatever is there, it looks good. And I forget what was actually on this, but there was a little tiny surface scratch on it, on the purple, that made it really hard to see. All this stuff had something. I got a stack of KPJs here of Prism bases. Every one of these had some type of small surface scratch, dent, or imperfection. And if you looked at that on a eBay posting, it would look pretty good. It looks centered. There's no super noticeable anything, but when you pull it out of the sleeve and look at it, you start to notice some stuff. So yeah, it's nice to say buy raw, send them in the PSA and turn them into PSA 10s, but your hit rate on that is low. And on that stuff, you just set it to the side and you just sell it raw. Like it is what it is. It's not like, especially the guys that I'm talking about, like in the off-season targets video, these are guys' prices that are probably going to go up anyways. So getting it raw and holding it isn't like the worst thing in the world. You limit some of your profits because you're not turning them into high-end graded cards, but it's whatever. So keep that in mind. I do not do group submissions. I send myself. I am not a group submission guy. I would rather pay a little extra and have total control over it. If I had, and I don't right now, if I had a local store, if I had a local LCS that did PSA group subs, um, I would consider submitting through a store. I don't like the idea of extra shipping of my cards. If I have to ship them from myself to a group sub guy, then the group sub guy has to ship them to PSA. PSA has to ship them back to the group sub guy, and then the group sub guy has to ship them back to me. Every time a card goes into the postal system, it's just a chance something bad can happen. Whether you're using UPS, FedEx, USPS, Amazon, Carrier Pigeon, Storks, whatever. Um, so I prefer to just do it myself and pay a little bit extra. If I had a local shop I could drop them off to and they were doing it, that would be different. There is, and it's not local, it's about 2 hours from me, but I may reach out to him. Card Collector 2 on YouTube. You guys probably know who he is. He has a pretty big YouTube channel. It's a good channel. I would check it out. I don't know the guy or anything, but he has pretty good content. He has a local shop in the Columbus area, which Columbus for me is about a 2 hour drive. But if I had enough stuff, I would consider driving down and dropping them off. I go to Columbus fairly regularly anyway, for personal and for work. So, depending on what his prices are, I would consider dropping stuff off to him and then just picking it up. But that's completely personal preference. I get why people use group subs. I don't clean them with anything. I use a microfiber cloth. That is it. There it is. Got it on Amazon. Got a pack of them for $5. Just a generic microfiber cloth. So I don't use wax or any type of chemicals or whatever. PSA has been cracking down on that stuff, and I'm not risking any of those shenanigans. So no thanks. Just a simple microfiber cloth. I take it out, wipe it down front and back, make sure there's no fingerprints on it. And then I always put it back in a clean penny sleeve. Even if the sleeve that I pulled it out of is not that new, after I wipe it down, I put it in a clean penny sleeve and then put it in a card saver. I don't have some big absorbent process when it comes to grading cards. I don't use a magnifying glass. If I could see it with my naked eye, cool. If something slips through, causes it to hit a 9, it is what it is. I'm not gonna sweat it. But all right, that's all I have for you guys today. Go make some DFS lineups. Go set some fantasy football lineups. Have a nice lazy Sunday. Watch some football all day. And we will catch you guys on the next one. Like, sub, comment, all that nonsense down below. Share the channel with your friends, all that stuff. So we will see you guys on the next one. Have a good Sunday and peace.